Last words of any person can be significant, but if they are a convicted serial killer, they can be chilling. Final words of serial killers give a sneak peek inside their psyche, whether they were remorseful, defiant, or just downright bizarre. Some laughed, some cursed, and some left messages we still can't explain. These are the last words of history's most infamous killers. Welcome back to Prison Stories, where we uncover the darkest corners of true crime. In today's video, we're diving into the eerie final moments of serial killers. John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown, was one of America's most notorious serial killers. Between 1972 and 1978, he lured and murdered 33 young men and boys, burying most of them under his house. But after years of evading justice, his execution day finally arrived. On May 10, 1994, at the Stateville Correctional Center in Illinois, Gacy was set to die by lethal injection. Even in his final hours, he showed no remorse. For his last meal, he requested fried chicken, fried shrimp, French fries, and a pound of strawberries. It was an extravagant meal, fitting for someone who had always seen himself as above the law. When asked for his final words, Gacy sneered and gave a cold, defiant response. "Kiss my ass." There was no apology, no regret, just arrogance to the very end. Eventually, Gacy was pronounced dead, outside the prison. Crowds gathered, cheering as news of his death spread. To the families of his victims, it was the justice they had waited years for. But even in death, Gacy remained the same, a remorseless monster. Ted Bundy was one of the most infamous serial killers in history, responsible for the brutal murders of at least 30 women across multiple states in the 1970s. Charismatic and manipulative, he evaded capture multiple times, but in the end his luck ran out. After years on death row, his execution day finally arrived.
Ted, it is about 2:30 in the afternoon. You are scheduled to be executed tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock if you don't receive another stay.
On January 24th, 1989, Bundy was scheduled to die in Florida's electric chair at the Florida State Prison. In his final hours, he refused a special last meal and was given the standard prison breakfast. Despite his past arrogance, he appeared terrified, knowing there was no escape this time. When asked for his final words, Bundy spoke softly, "I'd like to give my love to my family and friends." It was a strange contrast to the horrors he had committed. No apology, no remorse, just a final attempt to sound human. Outside the prison, hundreds gathered, celebrating his death, some even setting off fireworks. For many, justice had been served, but the scars he left behind would never fade.
For the record, you are guilty of killing many women and girls.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
Aileen Wuornos, one of the most infamous female serial killers, was convicted of murdering 7 men between 1989 and 1990. She claimed the killings were in self-defense, but her erratic behavior and shifting stories sealed her fate. After over a decade on death row, her time had come.
How you're going to be, at 9:30 tomorrow morning? Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm all right with it.
On October 9th, 2002, Wuornos was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison. Unlike most prisoners, she waived all appeals and insisted on being executed as soon as possible. In her final hours, she refused a special last meal, opting for a simple cup of coffee instead. Her final statement was as bizarre as she was, "I just want to say I'm sailing with a rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like the movie, big mothership and all. I'll be back." At 9:47 a.m., Wuornos was pronounced dead. Her unsettling final words left many disturbed, reinforcing the belief that she had completely detached from reality. To some, she was a cold-blooded killer. To others, she was a tragic figure shaped by a lifetime of abuse. But in the end, her fate was sealed by her own choice.
I'm okay. I'm okay. God is going to be there. Jesus Christ is going to be there. All the angels and everything.
Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal, was one of the most notorious serial killers in history. Between 1978 and 1991, he murdered 17 young men, committing horrific acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. His crimes shocked the world, and even after his conviction, many believed justice hadn't been fully served. But fate had other plans.
Dahmer.
If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be.
On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was attacked by a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver, while performing janitorial duties at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Beaten brutally with a metal bar, Dahmer had no chance of survival. Though not an official execution, Dahmer reportedly accepted his fate without resistance. Before the attack, he had told prison guards, "I don't care if I live or die. Go ahead and kill me." Dahmer died from severe head trauma, and his death was met with little sympathy. Many of his victims' families felt it was a more fitting end than what the justice system had given him. Some saw his death as karma, others as an escape. But one thing was certain: Jeffrey Dahmer's reign of terror had ended.
Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
Carl Panzram was a self-proclaimed monster, a violent drifter, rapist, and serial killer. He spent most of his life in and out of prison, where he committed brutal murders without remorse. Unlike most criminals, he never begged for forgiveness. He embraced his hatred until the very end. On September 5, 1930, Panzram faced his execution at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. Sentenced to death for murdering a prison worker, he refused to appeal, actively welcoming his fate. Even in his final moments, he remained defiant, mocking the system that had tried to control him. As the executioner struggled to adjust the noose, Panzram lashed out one last time. "Hurry it up, you who's. I could kill a dozen men while you're screwing around." It was a perfect send-off for a man who lived and died by violence. Panzram's last words reflect his state of mind. Clearly, he had years of anger and hatred pent up in him for others and life in general. In his last letter, he said,
"I am sorry for only two things. These two things are, I am sorry that I have mistreated some few animals in my lifetime, and I am sorry that I am unable to murder the whole damn human race. All that I leave behind me is smoke, death, desolation, and damnation. Carl Panzram."
Final word to more than just sentences. They're a window into the killer's mind. Some use them to show defiance, refusing to give the world the satisfaction of remorse. Others make one last attempt at control, choosing their own narrative even in death. And then there are those whose words reveal something deeper: acceptance, fear, or even a strange kind of peace. Thank you for watching Prison Stories. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next one.